I use my Disney Plus subscription like everyone else. I load up the app, watch the 1967 animated classic The Jungle Book, exclaim, "Yep, still good," and then go about the rest of my day. But recently, after watching my 4-year-old self's favorite movie, I took a look at the suggested section and saw something I hadn't thought about in years. The Jungle Book 2. First, let's give a little context as to why this exists. In 1967, Disney released The Jungle Book, a movie based somewhat loosely on the Rudyard Kipling book of the same name. This more cheerful adaptation is filled with beautiful musical numbers, a colorful cast of characters, including the best Disney character of all time and my best friend King Louie, I need to get more used to this, and a wonderful story about a feral child who wants nothing more than to stay in the jungle whilst his animal friends try to convince him otherwise. This movie was beloved during its theatrical release, partially due to the fact that it was the last movie Walt Disney worked on before he passed away in 1966. Grossing $23.8 million during its initial release and even more when it was released on home video in 1991, it was clear that Disney had a hit on their hands. And how do you capitalize on such a success? You release an airplane-themed spin-off. And a baby spin-off, because everything needs a baby spin-off. Also, there was 3 live-action adaptations, but I don't want to talk about those. The Jungle Book 2 was released theatrically on Valentine's Day of 2003, and was the first film that I ever saw in theaters. I ended up watching this movie a grand total of 2 times when it first released, once in theaters and once on VHS, and then never again. I always held on to my original copy so I could easily watch it again. And up until 2013, I had a working VCR. So I really don't know why I never watched it again. Even to this day, it's been sitting on my shelf and I still haven't acknowledged its existence until recently when I saw it on Disney+. I think it's about time that I look back on the sequel to my favorite Disney movie. This is The Jungle Book 2. The movie opens up with a nice little shadow puppet show that recaps the first movie. It's in this scene where we are introduced to our first new character, Rajan, a young child who looks up to Mowgli as an older brother type figure. Rajan really gets into the shadow puppet show, going as far as to attack the screen to, I guess, help protect Mowgli from Shere Khan. Kids. Shortly after, we're introduced to Rajan's mother and father, the latter of which is the leader of the Man Village. We're also reintroduced to Shanti, the girl who lures Mowgli into the Man Village in the first movie. This scene sets up the dynamics between Mowgli and the other human characters, with the village leader trying to be a father figure to a very reluctant Mowgli, as well as Shanti and Mowgli showing the classic, "we like each other but we don't want to admit it" trope.
Something was in my eye.
Both of them?
Well, you were so ugly you made my eyes water.
Well, you...
No.
The next morning, Mowgli and Rajan sneak out early to try and succeed to scare Shanti. This causes Shanti to run back to the Man Village and sets up our first song of the movie, Jungle Rhythm.
Feel the jungle rhythm.
Jungle Rhythm is a good song to kick off the movie, being a very fun, upbeat tune that shows, despite living in the Man Village, Mowgli's heart is still in the jungle. This scene ends with Mowgli leading all the children of the Man Village over towards the jungle, and Shanti yelling at them to stop, alerting the village leader and getting Mowgli into trouble. Thanks, Shanti, we really needed that. Next we see Baloo and Bagheera for the first time in the movie, as well as the first of 3 renditions of The Bare Necessities. This one has Baloo singing the song by himself whilst making a fake Mowgli out of fruit. Absolute spitting image, too. Beautiful. As Bagheera worries out loud, Baloo runs off towards the Man Village to see Mowgli. Because no matter how good it looks, fruit just... Because no matter how good it looks, fruit is no match for the real Mowgli. What the fuck is wrong with me? Baggy then runs after him and we get our first glimpse of the main antagonist, the one and only Shere Khan.
Mowgli.
Bagheera tracks down Baloo and stops him at the bridge to Terabithia, you can thank me for those horrible memories later, and confronts his friend. After a little back and forth about protecting Mowgli from Khan, Bagheera falls into the river and Baloo runs ahead, before coming face to face with the elephant.
By the ranks or single file.
This leads to my favorite trope of adults being completely incompetent while their children function perfectly fine. The elephants are all looking for Blue in the river to no avail, except for Hathi Jr. Hathi finds Blue not once, but twice, and still lets him go find Mowgli. Up next, we see the return of even more classic characters, the vultures. They're vultures. And now they have a fifth vulture. A fifth vulture named Lucky. Lucky's favorite pastime is tormenting Shere Khan. The vulture mocks Khan about what happened during the climax of the first movie, with Khan more or less ignoring him and making his way to the man village. Baloo and Khan arrive around the same time, with the former finding Mowgli early on. Baloo and Mowgli reunite, accidentally catching the attention of Shanti, who in return alerts the whole village of the wild bear that is there. However, instead of chasing Baloo, the villagers all find and scare off Khan instead. Good choice. Whilst Baloo and Mowgli run off to the jungle. Because Shanti can't take the hint that Mowgli wants nothing more than to go back to the jungle, she then follows them so that she can attempt to save him. After Mowgli tells Baloo about how bad the man village is, we go into our second rendition of Bare Necessities, with this one being much closer to the full song from the original.
For the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities.
Only with Mowgli singing more, and them unknowingly beating up the next returning character, Kaa.
Aren't it just for me to use the claw when you pick a pair of the big paw?
I so despise the song and dance routine.
Poor Kaa can never seem to catch a break. I mean, sure, he's a murderous snake who tries to eat children, but... Anyway, our slithery friend soon turns his attention to Shanti. After successfully hypnotizing her, Rajan comes in to help and brutally force-feeds Kaa a rock. As I said, Kaa can never catch a break. The Devil Child then boots Kaa off a cliff and still wants more. Continuing the story of Kaa never catching a break, we see him attempting to get himself out of a tree and being confronted by Shere Khan. The last time these two shared a screen, Khan was attempting to get information about Mowgli's whereabouts, and Kaa blatantly lied to his face. This scene goes down the same path, albeit with a few changes. In the first movie, Kaa had Mowgli put to sleep in his coils and lied so that he could have him all to himself. In this scene, he doesn't have Mowgli, and rather than just saying he doesn't know where the man cub is, he tells Khan that Mowgli is in the swamp. Whilst on the surface, these two scenes seem the same, try to say that 5 times fast, there's significantly less selfishness in Kaa's lie to Shere Khan, and a bit of an inconsistency. Without having Mowgli in his coils, there's no real reason to lie to Khan about his whereabouts. You could argue that Khan is trying to help the man cub, but 2 scenes earlier he tried to eat him, negating that motivation, and leaving the only other reason being if he wanted to track down Mowgli again, which he never does. Anyway, Kaa tells Shere Khan that Mowgli is in the swamp, and the tiger is off. Up next, we see that the residents of the man village have entered the jungle to look for the missing children. A small, yet important plot point. After a brief confrontation between Baloo and Bagheera, Baloo and Mowgli decide that they should lay low and head for the ruins. Whilst getting ready to leave, Mowgli tells Baloo to scare Shanti if she tries to bring Mowgli back to the man village. Asking someone to scare the person you like? That couldn't possibly go wrong. Could it? Back to Khan, and we see him make his way to the swamp, realizing he's been lied to. Immediately after, we have Lucky return to continue poking the bear. Tiger! Man, I'm mixing up all my animals today. Lucky keeps pestering Khan and ends up telling him where Mowgli is, because of course he knows. He then ends up getting eaten for his troubles. I mean, I can't say he didn't deserve it. We then transition over to the ruins, where we have the triumphant return of King Louie.
This is the perfect hideout. This is King Louie's place.
Was, kid, was. He's Splitsville.
Oh. Okay. So then they get into the ruins, and almost immediately they jump into the next song, WILD.
Here's the thing!
The song sucks. That monkey's a different color than he used to be. And this scene was pointless. Okay, that's not entirely true. A conversation between Mowgli and the monkey with the leaf, now without his leaf, gets him to realize that he actually does miss Shanti and the rest of the man village. And I guess it gets Mowgli and Baloo where they need to be for the following scene, so not completely pointless, but more filled with a lot of things that are. So Mowgli goes off by himself before finally reuniting with Shanti and Rajan. This reunion is soon ruined, though, by Baloo doing what Mowgli told him to do.
Roar!
This upsets Shanti, as it would anyone, causing her to run off. After a brief interaction that has Baloo finally seeing the whole picture, Mowgli runs after Shanti and comes face to face with Shere Khan.
You seem surprised to see me, man cub.
A chase ensues, leading our characters to a part of the ruins surrounded by lava. After a brief distraction involving gongs left in the ruins, the chase moves over to a higher part of the ruins. Mowgli, Shanti, and Khan then climb onto a giant stone tiger head, causing it to fall in the lava pit below, with Mowgli and Shanti being caught at the last minute by Baloo. Khan isn't nearly as lucky though, as he falls onto the rocks below and is crushed by the giant head, getting trapped in its mouth. This seemingly causes Khan to throw up Lucky, alive and well, still able to annoy the living hell out of Khan.
Hello, Stripes. You're looking a bit down in the mouth today.
Oh no.
Hey, what's the matter? Cat got your tongue?
I mean, I can't say he didn't deserve it. The group then reunites and finds the rest of the villagers. After pondering over his options, Mowgli eventually decides to return to the man village, once again leaving Baloo all alone. For about 2 minutes. Baloo then magically realizes that with Khan trapped at the bottom of the lava pit, Mowgli can come and visit him in the jungle whenever he wants. We then get the reprise of bare necessities before the movie ends.
The simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife.
Overall, I'd say this is a good sequel to the original Jungle Book, with a logical progression from the story told in the 1967 classic. The sequel looks quite a bit different from the original, with the jump to digital animation offering a much cleaner look and advanced lighting and camera movements not possible with 1960s cell animation. However, it doesn't look different enough to where you can't tell who certain characters are. If I had to point out the movie's flaws, I'd say that it lacks a bit of the charm that the original had, with some scenes, namely WILD, not feeling as fun or engaging. I spilled that all over. Apparently at one point a third movie, presumably about the triumphant return of King Louie, was pitched, but it never got off the ground. Anyway, I'd still recommend this movie to anyone who loved the original. Despite the few flaws, it's still a really good experience, and
Now I'm the king of the swingers, oh, the jungle VIP.
they cut King Louie from the movie, put his song in the credits, with the version being used, performed by Smash Mouth? What the I like the popcorn, I want to share it.